So with the final editions of the Leo2 AVLB, I just want to point out that the side skirts, as I mentioned, have not been built onto the tank. Just really quickly, you're given two options of side skirts. One option is, well, one of two options actually, is this one here that I'm showing you, where it shows some of the protective armor that was added onto this Leo2 AVLB to protect the crews, mostly from the front, because that's where those two guys are going to be, right there in the front armor. So that guy would go right along there, along the tank. The other option that's similar to this one is this wavy pattern with some actual cutouts into the side skirt, unlike the bars that you see here. So those are two options of this full skirt that you see here. The other option, which was a little bit more perplexing because it didn't show it on the Hobby Boss and how to install it, is this very large armored box that protects a good portion of not just the crew compartment, but also probably a part of the turret as well, where the electronics are going to be. This thing here comes in three parts. It's sprue B, and basically you have this back panel that I'm beginning to trim out, this other part that I've already cut out already, and this back end section that's over here. But again, it doesn't really show you how to install it onto this Leo2. So you kind of have to like figure it out, jimmy with it. The first two parts are pretty easy to figure. They're not too difficult. I'm just going to show that to you really quickly. So in the last few parts that we have here, I've already trimmed out the back panel of this guy here. I'm going to go and remove that. And then just quickly just trim off. So that's the back panel. I could shave it down, sand it down a bit. I'm not going to do that. I keep hitting this stand. But basically that just goes right inside there. Okay, so I'll glue that puppy down and show you what I did for that last back panel here. The only thing that you have to worry about when installing this is where do you install it? That's the other thing. How is it installed? Where do we put this thing? Well, my only guesstimation, as I look at my hole, there's a small pinhole. This guy, oops, bring it down. This guy right here. Let me point it to you with my knife. This guy right here. This little pinhole. And another one on the other side. So I'm assuming, just for laughs, that this guy and this guy that's over here on the other side, there are these brackets on the real tank, I'm assuming, that actually hold up these very large armored boxes. So I'm going to go ahead and pretend that this first notch, this guy I'm pointing to right now with my knife right here, that's where I'm going to go ahead and align it to the rest of the tank. Now it doesn't show it clearly enough on the instructions of Hobby Boss. So Hobby Boss, there's another error there that you guys have. I think I counted up to 3 maybe. But you need to show us where these armored boxes are going to go. But again, where does that back plate go? So that's this last part right here. This guy right here. Where does that guy go? So I'm going to go ahead and snip that off, and I'll show you where I place mine. So this is where roughly this large armored side skirt is going to be. Again, here's that hole I mentioned to you. Let me show it to you with a toothpick instead. Right here is where I'm going to pretend to attach it. I just hope that's where it's actually attached. But more importantly is to mate this back panel to the rest of this. Now there is a bit of a vent right here, as you can kind of see it in the light, that should not be covered. So as I'm trying to position this thing, it looks like this thing might actually block a bit of that vent that's there. That's kind of a bummer. So I'm going to see if maybe I need to scoot it up a little bit further. But if I did that, it's not going to make a difference. Maybe the lineups are here. Roughly right about there. That gives me more room. And let's see if that matches. And it looks good. Right there. Okay. So instead of matching it to that hole, there is a bar that's there. This little guy that's right here. Right between the light and what I'm assuming is the mirror. Right in there. And it looks like there's another piece that might fit right over here in the back end behind the driver. Looks like it might fit there. So, more importantly, is how's this thing attached? Well, there is a lip right underneath that slips right under the upper hole, and it fits really nice and perfect right there. You got space for the vent, you got space for the armored box, and the space for that back end side skirt. The only thing is though, how to attach it, because there's no pins. There's nothing back here, so you gotta like have to like hold on to this or clamp it or whatever the case may be. I'm gonna go ahead and try clamping it, and hopefully that works. Okay, so I roughly got one of my medium clamps. It's a rubberized clamp, and one of my binder clips that I enjoy using. I'm just gonna go ahead and clip this back in. I don't think that's gonna stay. No, that's not gonna stay. Okay, so I'm gonna have to like hold this while I glue a little bit of that back side. It's right along here. Okay, I'm going to keep it in that place. I'm not going to keep it there permanently because I want to remove this thing. Okay, that looks like it should hold. And it's lined up to the upper hole seam there. Okay, so just like that. So that's where you would put that extra armored box along the side of the hole. I mean, you have that real cool option, like I said, with this guy. I like this one. I was going to pick this one first, or that wavy pattern that has the cutouts already cut into it for footholds for the men to climb up on, or women. It might be female engineers, okay, to get into this Leo2 AVLB. So that's one thing I want to show you on how to attach those side skirts. And we're going to go ahead and paint this out and make it look pretty. All right, so after painting now the side skirts on a little bit of a late night paint run, everything looks apropos, looks very good. Might readjust that alignment, just move it just a little bit forward, using a toothpick to this little bar. Like I said, I mentioned that other one on the other side, and that looks about right. As far as the back plate, that looks appropriate as well. So everything looks pretty good here in alignment wise. And then as I was painting, because you really can't hold anything while you're painting here, so I came by and I drilled out a couple of holes here. And then I said to myself, I wonder if I can use those same holes to actually attach it right onto that side right here. You know, so I got to measure that out. I just randomly drilled out a couple of holes, and I think that'd be a cool idea to actually attach that side skirts now using those things, at least as an alignment, and that way I'll be able to glue that back panel there. So that's probably what I'll do. Drill out a few holes on the side of the upper hole here, and just made them right on there. And I, just made it such where it's not going to show that much. I might have to repaint a little bit on the back side there. I did a little bit of the back paint there, not too much, but I could just touch that up with a brush. And the same thing over here on the other side. Again, I already have the 2 toothpicks as I'm holding this side skirt while spraying. Okay, and that actually helps while painting. But it might also help to, like I said, to actually drill out those holes. Again, very exaggerated, to actually drill it right on there. So that's probably what I'll do, to secure those guys on there. The only thing is, though, is that how are these guys glued on? Well, this one is pretty easy to figure. It's not that tough. All I do is just glue on the upper rail right here onto the lower portion of that hole. So that's not a big deal. But how do I attach the more robust ones? There is no pins, no things to hold on to. So that was a bit of a difficult part. So I came by, what I did is that I lined it pretty much to, using this toothpick right here, this hole right here where the mirror is going to be. I believe that's where the mirror for the driver is going to be located. And I used this little area here, this brace that's there, as more or less as a guide to help me with that. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn this guy over. It's not attached. Okay, I'm going to turn this guy over, and using my 3/64 inch drill bit, I'm going to just go ahead and drill some holes onto the side and match them up. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and tape this guy down to where I want it approximately located. So I'm going to go ahead and do that for you right now. So I already drilled out one hole right over here in the center, finishing up this second hole. I do want to point out that you will be drilling at an angle because of this upper portion of this hole that's there that's interfering from you getting a nice 90-degree angle. So just be aware of that you're cutting out or drilling out at an angle there, and just keeping an eye on everything there. We're going to go ahead and drill out this other hole over here. And I approximated about 4 millimeters from the top, okay, of the hole down to where I need to drill this out. So that's about 4 millimeters. This guy here is also about 4 millimeters as well. And we're going to go ahead and drill out at another 4 millimeters. So there's going to be 3 holes on each side there. So once those holes are drilled out, we're going to go ahead and test them out. Let me go ahead and remove the tape that secured everything. As you can see down here, we have our 3 holes that are approximately aligned. And I'm going to go ahead and install this 3/64 inch rod onto these holes and attach these guys on there. So hopefully that's going to work for me and actually get these guys down. Okay, that hole fits well. That one does too. One more. Yikes, watch out for my finger. Okay, now those guys look like they fit very well. Okay, so Yahoo! Last thing we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and drill out the holes on that side skirt. So I came by initially, drilled out 2 holes as I was holding on to the, oh my gosh, I just snapped this off. As I was painting it. And I do want to point out that this other rear area, again, there is no pin or tab to hold that thing down. So be very careful while dealing with that back end, because any type of movement, pressing down on this area, you're going to snap this thing off like I just kind of did already. But it's going to be an easy fix. I'm not too concerned about that. If anything, I'm going to super glue this down to give it a little bit of firmer hold. But getting back to, as I was saying, as I was painting this, I actually installed those 2 toothpicks, and that's where I came up with the idea of actually attaching brass rod onto this more robust side skirt. So that should help. And having 3 pins going out from the upper hole there onto that side skirt should give me enough of an anchor to actually hold this thing down to actually paint the whole thing out. So we're getting ready to add the last parts of this Leopard 2 AVLB. So measuring out the brass rod, it's going to be about 4 millimeters in depth going into the side skirt here. I'm going to just add another 4 mil to go inside that upper hole. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out 3 of these, 12 millimeters all together, and attach those things on there with crazy glue. Kind of shave it down a little bit so that way it's a little bit flush up against that upper hole turret. So once you mark them off, we're going to go ahead and cut them off with some wire cutters that I have here. And also a little metal file to shave down those sharpened ends once we finish cutting out those brass parts. Okay, so we have attached the 3 pins, the 3 brass pins onto the side skirt there. So we're going to go ahead and attach that onto this upper hole. Okay, so we're going to see if that works. Hopefully that does. It should line up pretty well and everything should fit in there pretty well. Okay, so test fitting it. Seemed to work okay. Very simply. Just press those guys in. And voila. And then all you need to do is just glue that last part down, back off. So Rick, if you're watching this, if you're seeing this part of the video, that's what I would do. Just flip it over. As you can see, I have just enough of the pins not to interfere with anything. If anything does go underneath there, which it doesn't look like it will. It's just maybe a little rough at the top, but I think that's acceptable for what we need to do. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other side, and that's how we will attach those side skirts. Okay, so with the right side skirt catching on very well, I have to modify a little bit on the left side, not a major issue. If anything, if you do run across a slight imperfection, not a good looking fit, you could drill out using the file, using the drill bit, excuse me, as a file to actually get the hole a little bit wider, a little bit higher up, and that way you'll be able to fit in. The only small thing that, it's not a major thing, it's a minor thing, inconvenience is that it didn't line up well with that last part of that side skirt. But everything else seems to work pretty well on the enhancements, the additions of this Leopard 2 AVLB. So I'm pretty satisfied with that, and I hope you can learn from using that brass rod to actually attach on those side skirts, which makes the model look a lot more robust.